Hey guys and girls, so in today's video I'm going to be showing you how to make an infinite amount of Bobux. To get started, I'm first going to create a new folder on my desktop and call it Bobux. We're now going to need a text editor to write some scripts. We can use Notepad, but for a better experience we can use something like Notepad++, or we can use something like Visual Studio Code. I'm going to be using Notepad++. Once you have opened your text editor, we're going to write a small amount of HTML. We're first going to define this document as being a HTML5 document. Then we're going to create a HTML element, and within the HTML element we're going to create a header element, and inside of the header element we're going to create a title, and I'm going to set the title to Infinite Bobux. And we're also going to create a body element. Now I'm going to save this by going to File, Save. Now inside of the Bobux folder, I'm going to save a new HTML file, and I'm going to call this file Bobux and press Save. And now if we open our Bobux folder, we can see we have a new Bobux file, and we can run this file, and it opens an empty page with the title Infinite Bobux. Now we're going to need to write some JavaScript. So inside of the body element, we're going to create a script element, and inside of this script element, we're going to create a function which is called createSprite, and it's going to take a path variable into the function. This function is first going to create an empty table called sprite, and we're going to set the image key of the sprite table to equal a new element, which is the image element, and we're going to assign a function to the onLoad event, which will fire once the image has loaded, and we're going to set the left and top margin of the image to -half of the width and half of the height, so that the image aligns around the center of the image. We're then going to set the position to absolute, which allows us to position the image anywhere on the page we like. We're then going to set the source of the image to the path that we pass in. We're then creating a function called setX, and we're saving it inside of the sprite table, and this function takes in a X value, and then we're saving that X value to a key called X inside of the sprite table, and then we're setting the image element style left to equal X plus PX, which stands for pixels, and we're doing the exact same for the Y value, and then we're calling these two functions and setting the X and Y to 0 by default. And then we're appending this image element to the body, which is this here, and then we return the sprite table back to whoever has called this createSprite function. We're now going to need to make a ninja that's going to hack into the Roblox servers in order to take our Bobux. We can use an image editor like Critter or GIMP. I'm going to be using GIMP in this video. Once you've opened your image editor, you're going to create a new image, and we want our image size to be something around 128 by 128 pixels. And now you're going to draw your ninja. Make sure to draw your ninja on a transparent layer, and once you're happy with your ninja, you're going to come to File and Export As. and I'm going to go into the Bobux folder and save it as ninja.png and press export. And I'm going to press export here. Now if we look into our Bobux folder, we can see we have a new ninja image. Now let's create our ninja sprite. So I'm going to call the create sprite function, and I'm going to pass in the path of ninja.png, and I'm going to set the ninja's X position to 100 and the Y position to 100. Now if you open the Bobux.html file once again, you should see the ninja on the page. Now let's store the keys that are pressed into this keys table. So on the keys down event, we're going to call this a function which receives an event object, and we're going to use the event object's code variable to use as a key for the keys table, and we're going to set this value to true. And when the key is released, we're going to set the value back to null. Now let's create a loop by requesting the animation frame and passing in the step function. And inside of the step function, we're requesting the animation frame once again in order to have this function run every animation frame. Now inside of our step function, we're going to set a variable called speed, and I'm having it set to equal to 2. And we're going to check the keys table for the key W, and if it's equal to true, we're going to set the ninja's Y position to the ninja's current Y position negative speed, and we do the same for the S but in the opposite direction, and the same for A and D, but for the A and D we're also going to transform on the x-axis to -1 when we move to the left side in order to flip the image to the left side. Now if you run the Bobux.html file once again, you'll now notice that we can move the ninja around with the WASD keys, and when we move to the left side, he flips to face the other way. I've now added a few more images to my Bobux folder, one being a background image, one being a potion image, and one being a Robux image. When you move your ninja down to the bottom of the page, you'll notice that this scroll bar appears, and in order to stop that scroll bar from appearing, at the very top of the script I'm going to add the overflow to equal hidden. Now if I refresh my page and move my ninja to the bottom of the page, we can see that the scroll bar no longer appears. Now in order to set the background image, I'm going to set the background to the background PNG, and I'm going to set the background to not repeat and have the background centered and fixed, and I'm going to set the background size to cover so it covers the entire page. Now if I refresh the page once again, we can see that we now have a background. I've now created a Robux sprite and positioned it randomly on the page. I'm also going to do the same for the ninja, so I'm going to change the 100 to a random position. I've now also created a magnitude function that takes in two sprites and calculates the distance between the two sprites and returns the total distance back to the caller of this function. And inside of our step loop, I've created a if check to check the distance between the ninja and the Robux, and if it's less than 50, we reposition the Robux to a new position. And if we refresh the Bobux page once again, we can move our ninja to the Robux, and every time he touches it, it will move to a new random position. I've now created a function called create text, which works a lot like the create sprite function. We first create an empty table called text label, and then we're creating a div element, and we're saving it inside of the div key, and we're setting the position to absolute, and we're using the X and Y values to set the left and top, and the width to set the width, and we're creating a function called setText that sets the inner text of the div to the text that's passed into the function. We're also creating a function called setWidth that sets the width, and another function that's called setColor that sets the background color, and we're appending this div to the body, and we're returning the table back to whoever called this function. I've now created a variable called Bobux, which is equal to 0, and I've used the createText function, and I'm passing in a X, Y, and width value, and I'm storing the table that it returns into the Bobux text variable, and then I'm using the setText function to set the text to Bobux and passing in the amount of Bobux we currently have. And inside of our step loop, if the magnitude is less than 50, now instead of only positioning the Robux to a new random position, I'm also incrementing the Bobux by 1 and also updating the text to say the new Bobux value. So if we refresh our page once again and move our ninja to the Robux, we can see that the Bobux is now incrementing every time I touch the Robux. I've now created a potion sprite the exact same way we created the Robux sprite, and I've also added a magnitude check for the ninja and the potion, and if it's below 50, I'm positioning the potion at a new random position. I've now created a new variable called boost, which is equal to 0, and a text box called boost text at the position of 10, 10, and a width of 0. And I've set the text box text to boost, and I've also set the color to a green color. And when we touch the potion, I'm now incrementing the boost value by 600 and updating the text of the text box to the boost value and setting the width to the boost value divided by 10. And if I refresh the Bobux page and touch the potion, we can see that the text box has increased in size and it shows the value of 600. And if I touch another potion, it increments even higher. And over here, after I have set the speed, I'm checking to see if the boost value is greater than 0. If it is greater than 0, we're deducting 1 from the boost value, and I'm changing the speed value from 2 to 5, and I'm also updating the text box with the new boost value and updating the width of the text box with the boost value divided by 10. So if we refresh the page once again, and if I go over to the potion, we can see that we get a speed boost, and our boost is slowly decreasing, and once our boost hits 0, our speed boost should stop. And now you can see I'm moving slow once again like before. Now you may be thinking that's going to take forever for your ninja to collect a meaningful amount of Bobux. So by adding this here, so first I'm checking if the space key is equal to true, and then I'm getting the distance from the Robux to the ninja, and I'm adding that difference multiplied by 0.1 to the current ninja's position, and I'm doing the same for the Y position. So if we run the page again and hold the space key, we can now see that the ninja is now rushing to collect all the Bobux. So now let's overlook the entire code. So first, we're setting the body's overflow to hidden to prevent the scroll bars of the page from showing. We're setting the background and the background size. We're then creating a function that creates a text box, and we're also creating a function that creates the sprite. We're also creating another function that checks the magnitude between two sprites. And then we're creating a boost variable and using the create text function to create a text box for the boost variable. And we're doing the same for the Bobux variable. Then we're creating a ninja sprite, and we're creating a Robux sprite and a potion sprite. And then we're creating a table to store which keys are being pressed, and we're using the key down event and key up event to set the key table to either true or null. And then we're creating a loop that runs every frame, and in this loop we're creating a speed variable. If the boost variable is greater than 0, we're deducting the boost variable and setting the speed to 5, and then updating the boost text box. We're also checking for the WASD keys, and we're updating the ninja's position depending on which keys we have pressed. We're also checking the space key to quickly move the ninja to the next Robux if the space key is true. And then we're checking the magnitude between the ninja and the Robux, and if it's less than 50, we're repositioning the Robux to a new random position. We're incrementing the Bobux variable, and we're also updating the Bobux text. And we're doing the same for the potion, and if the position is less than 50 magnitude, we're setting a new random position. We're incrementing the boost by 600, and then we're updating the boost text box. Thank you for watching my video, and if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment down below.